Hi everyone, this is Jared Simpson and welcome to my channel Power Fanatic. This is a 3-in-1 game I made in Power Apps and it's called How to Feed Your Dragon. In this video I will step through part 1 of the app build with part 2 to follow next week. Let's get stuck in and I hope you enjoy it. So the theme of the game is all about dragons who are hungry for vegetables, and the main objective is to try and source as many vegetables as possible. There are 3 separate games to try and achieve this, each with 3 difficulty levels, and they involve speed, precision, hand-eye coordination and memory. Let's run through each game with a quick demo and then we'll come back and dig into the mechanics. First of all, we have Veg Your Bets, which we will play in high difficulty. This initial view is a short intro to the game. The visibility for this scroll and the labels are on a timer, after which the game will start, or you can select skip to start the game straight away. So we have a row of 10 assorted vegetables along the top and 10 opposing barrels along the bottom, 3 of which are open and the remainder closed. The aim of the game is to select the vegetables along the top and place them into the corresponding open barrels. If you land them, you get the following success sound. If you miss, your vegetables go splat on top of the side barrels. Both the vegetables and the barrels are constantly shuffling on a looping timer, so it's a race against the clock to land the veg in the barrel before they get swapped out. As you collect, your tally is recorded on the table in the bottom right. And essentially, you need to be as quick as possible and as precise as possible to maximise your tally. So let's now have a look at Take 5 and we'll play that game in medium difficulty. So we'll skip this. And Take 5 is really just about speed and precision. So you essentially have to match 5 vegetables to the one that's shown on the right hand side as quickly as possible within the allocated time. And it seems maybe not too bad, it seems easy enough here, but in some cases it can be difficult depending on the blend and the mix of vegetables that you get, especially if you do it in high difficulty, which is a 10 by 10 grid. But yeah, it's quite a fast game, this one, and you're just really going through it as quick as you can to collect as many as you can. Finally, we'll go for Total ReCaul and we'll play this one on low difficulty. So this game is all about memory, and it's similar to Take 5 in that you have to take 5, or in this case find 5, but they're hidden. You have to memorize exactly where they are. It's not too bad in low difficulty, but as you can imagine it can be a lot trickier if you go up to medium or high difficulty, especially if there's a lot of green vegetables and you're trying to find a green vegetable. You're trying to spot those 5 vegetables before they're hidden. So this can be a tricky one, but yeah, it's a fun memory game, and yeah, that's the 3rd game in the suite. So let's go back and have a look at the build. So starting from the top down, so the app has 4 main screens, the home screen and then 3 screens for each of the games. There's a whole selection of media in the form of images and sounds which are used throughout the app. The app isn't connected to a data source and just uses local collections, which I'll come to later. So in terms of the welcome screen, this is your initial greeting screen with the game title, main navigation to each game, leaderboard, and also a 3-way switch to set the difficulty throughout the games. In terms of controls, there are some hidden controls that are permanently hidden in each of the screens in the form of media players and timers. For the mechanics of the game then, starting at the app level, for the OnStart of the app, I've set the following variables. So the first one is very much a development type variable, which is used to set the visibility of those hidden controls that I mentioned. And it's handy for just allowing ease of access to those hidden controls during the development phase. So essentially setting the visibility of those controls to this variable, i.e. either true or false. For the second variable, this is essentially just the runtime for the games, which can be easily adjusted by changing this variable input, which obviously then cascades down through the runtimes for each of the games, which is handy for the development phase if you want a short runtime just to test the overall sequence of your game. The third one is just really a visibility variable, which is set for the main menu, in this welcome screen, or it switches to false, for which then it shows the leaderboard. The fourth one, var difficulty. This is a record which is set to that variable, and that record contains 4 properties: the level, number, total, and rotation. And these are used to control the behavior of the game subject to the chosen difficulty, but I'll come to that in more detail later on. And then the fifth and sixth variables are just they kick off the timers that are used to animate the border color and the main game buttons that you see, and also the star transparency beside the leaderboard text. The on visible of the screen, it doesn't do much apart from kick off those same animation variables that I mentioned, as well as reset the audio player. With regards to the animation I mentioned, this is just using the ever-changing ratio of the timer value divided by the timer duration, and multiply that then by the red aspect of the RGB color in the border of the buttons, and then just reversing that red value back to black using the second timer, which then gives you that pulsing effect from black to red to black to red. The exact same rationale then is used for the star beside the leaderboard text, but in this case it doesn't change the color, it changes the transparency from 0 to 20 or 25%, which just gives a subtle draw of attention to the fact that it's a clickable feature on the screen. So in terms of difficulty, so the difficulty level, it's set to mid-level on start. As I said, the variable var difficulty is set to a record with the level, number, total, and ROT, which is rotation. In terms of the level, it's set to self.text, and I then use that to condition the text color and also to display the relevant yellow line that points to the selected level. The great thing about using self.text is that you can change the text in those labels to anything, and that text will then cascade down into the formula in the onSelect property and the text color condition, and these will still work regardless of the value applied to the label. The number and total properties are used to change the game grid densities, but I'll come to that later. The ROT property is the rotation, and that essentially just sets the rotation of the icon that you see, so it points to the correct level. So in terms of the games, all the games have 3 phases, all controlled by timers. I'll cover timers in more detail in part 2. But for Veg Your Bets, so there's a starting / intro phase, there is the gameplay phase, and then there's the post-game finishing phase. For the controls on Veg Your Bets, we have the main visible controls are 3 number galleries. So we have, in the main game area, we have a gallery at the top, which is for the veg, so the gallery veg, and this runs for the majority of the depth of that main game area. Now, just to show how the var difficulty is used here, the number property of var difficulty is used as the wrap count in both the veg and barrel galleries, but you can see here where it's used. So by flicking the difficulty switch on the home screen, we're able to adjust the galleries accordingly. The items property also needs to be adjusted to ensure the correct number of items are in the gallery, subject to the difficulty level, i.e. so that the number of items match the wrap count, so that you're left with 1 row of vegetables. Now this creates a slight issue with this particular game, which I haven't got around to fixing yet, but please let me know in the comments if you spot the issue. The total property is used in the other games, which I will cover in the part 2 video. So inside this gallery we have an icon to select the vegetables. Now this wasn't needed, but it gave a better experience when playing on the computer due to the cursor hover effects that you can see here. Behind that then there's the image of the vegetable, and then there's also a timer, which during normal gameplay is hidden, but is just showing here due to the global development variable that is currently set to true. There's also then towards the bottom, there's an image of the splat, and then there's also the image of the speed lines. In terms of the other gallery at the bottom, this is the gallery that contains the barrels, and all this has is just an image of the barrel. And then the other gallery is a score tally area on top of the table to the right hand side, and this just contains an image of veg and a label. There are various other images throughout the screen that you can see, the background image, the barrel, and I also use a text input for the game area backdrop that you see there with the black boundary and the slight transparency to allow the image to come through in the back, and then various labels as well. The main hidden controls in this screen are 3 number audio players, and they are used for the main game music, the success noise, and also the splat noise. And then we also have these 4 timers, 3 for the main game phases that I mentioned earlier, and then 1 which is a looping timer which shuffles the galleries. So let's have a look at how this game works and the main expressions. So on Visible, we have 2 number collections that are created. These are call 10 veg and call 10 barrels. These are essentially the base collections used in this game and are used to create call 10 veg shuffled and call 10 bar shuffled. And these 2 latter collections, the shuffled collections, they're bound to the upper and lower galleries, respectively, in the main game area. And before I explain the main expression in this game, I just want to point out the problem that we're trying to solve. So this game shuffles the data in 2 independent galleries that are in no way linked, and we want the game logic to check when we select the vegetable to drop into a barrel that the barrel is open or that it's closed. So how do we do this? How do we achieve this, given the fact that these are 2 totally independent galleries with independent data sets? Well, the main logic works as follows. So we'll work from the inside out. The first thing that's happening here is we have our base collection. We're shuffling that base collection, and then we're adding a column which is called SEQ, and we're populating that column with zeros. That is all collected into call 10 veg shuffled. Then the next step is we leverage updateIf with a max function and do a +1 on the max, and essentially let the updateIf act like a for all as it loops through the shuffled collection, applying the 1 to 10 sequence. And the beauty of this is that it, regardless of how much you're shuffling your collection, you're always left then with this consistent sequence column of 1 to 10 from row number 1 to row number 10. And that's happening in both elements of this expression for the vegetable collection and also the barrel collection, and means then you have a symmetrical set of values in the SEQ column that you can then use in a lookup function. So now that we have our fully aligned SEQ columns, we can use this logic in the onSelect property of the icon that overlays the veg. The onSelect property does 2 main things. Firstly, it sets a variable record called var_catch_choice to this item from the gallery. This is then used in the start property of the timer in that row of the gallery. This timer is used to control the gradual fading of the speed lines, the splat images, and in the event of a successful drop into the barrels, the animation of the veg as it disappears into the barrel. Secondly, onSelect of the icon also looks up the barrel image type at the bottom and checks what the image is. So if the image is closed cropped, var splat is set to true, which controls the visibility of splat. On timer end, var splat then returns to false to start the loop again. If barrel cropped, var splat stays false, so splat image remains hidden, but the vegetable remains visible as it then disappears into the barrel. This also results in the item being collected into the call score catch collection, which is bound to the score gallery on the right hand side there. In terms of how the vegetables disappear, all I've done there is animated the Y value of the image down so it disappears off the end of the gallery, giving the effect of it dropping into the barrel. Lastly, for this game, we have the gallery catch tally that I mentioned previously, and this shows the score in the form of a collection of vegetables. The items property of the gallery is set to show a distinct result of the image column from the call score catch collection, so that there's only ever one pick of each vegetable shown in the gallery. A label has also been placed which runs a COUNTIF checking how many times the displayed distinct image is in call score catch. So just to wrap up this first part, that's all I wanted to cover this time around. In part 2, I'll cover off the remaining 2 games, as well as cover my use of timers and media players in more detail. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.